Live on SportsGrid, it is Betting Above the Rim, pro basketball today with myself, Kevin Walsh, Tom Vecchio, and of course, Coach James Young. We join you here on this Saturday. We are on the heels of game number 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. We are getting set for game number 3 in the Western Conference Finals. And so far, a pair of 2-0 series leads. And I know that if I told Coach that was the case, he would imagine that would be pretty good for his New York Knicks. Instead, it's 2-0 Pacers, Coach.
Shout out to everyone on the Knicks organization. You're all catching strays at some point, and I hope they make more hits and misses better than Angel Reese versus the New York Liberty. There's my one Angel Reese reference for today. Actually, there's probably going to be more. But to me, everything the Knicks have done in preparing this roster was to beat Boston. They did that. What happened? They can't close out game 1. Tibbs continues to go only 8 deep, almost 7 deep, you would say more in the second half, Tom. And now the Knicks find themselves in an 0-2 hole. The only saving grace you could say for New York, if you want to say anything, is they've been better on the road, 5-1 on the road versus 3-5 at home. But either way, the Knicks are in trouble, deep trouble versus a team that is more athletic and deeper than them.
Yeah, the way I want to phrase like this 2-0 series for the Knicks, obviously in favor of the Pacers, is like I don't want to say the Knicks are playing bad. I just want to say like the Pacers are better. They're playing better. They have better combinations to put out there. They are deeper, and this is something that we've talked about for the Knicks, dating back since the start of the playoffs, or coming into the playoffs when we did the preview show, is the Knicks are great, but again, the non-Brunson, non-Cat minutes are an issue. And when the Pacers can put out, again, 7, 8, 9, 10 players out there that they can realistically try different combinations, it leaves the Knicks like grasping for straws at a certain point. We're not seeing any production off the bench. Campaign being out there is a non-factor. I would like to see the Knicks try to do different things, but they're running out of time to try to do these different things. So, the Knicks are not playing bad. I think they're just simply getting beat by a better team.
Well, that shouldn't be the case whatsoever, and is certainly not going to fly with OK Dubs. Not when the Knicks were favored to win the series, had the better record, had 2 guys make All-NBA. Jalen Brunson, second-team All-NBA. That's interesting. He was outplayed by Cat all season long, but now we get to the playoffs, and it's Brunson's team once again, and that's great. We can do this as many times as you want, but all of a sudden, what? Cat is completely useless? Cat was a -20. A -20. So you look back on game number 1, and we think about it as the Aaron Nesmith game, but it also would be appropriate to say the Knicks lost the Cat game, because apparently, at worst, their second-best player can't even be relied on to stay on the floor. Mitchell Robinson was in that game yesterday, not because Tibbs forgot Cat was on the bench. It's because he wanted Cat on the bench. Cat only got back into that game because Haka Robinson was in bounds once again. That's the reality of it. And good old Tommy Tibbs found himself on the hot seat again with now a 2-0 deficit on his plate. We'll dive more into this series quite a bit. I want to bring up the Western Conference Finals, though, where Oklahoma City has handled their business. And some people have used the 2-0 start for OKC to rewrite history and say, Denver, how good is that team? I don't think that's the story. I think that the Nuggets stole a game in the opener of that series that they never should have been able to, and the next game they got their heads promptly beat in. I'm actually pretty sure through the first 2 games of this series, it is not as big of a margin as it was through the first 2 games of Nuggets Thunder. OKC is better than Minnesota. They've been better than everybody all season long, and they're up 2-0, just as they should be, Coach, through 2 games of this series.
How can I say this? Not all 2-0 series leads are built the same.
Right.
You could look at the Knicks series versus the Pacers and say it's a difference of maybe 2 to 3 minutes that this thing could be the other way. You can't say that about the Western Conference Finals because the Thunder are literally pulling what I called yesterday on the early line, the Larry Holmes effect. They just jab you and jab you and jab you, and your defense will stay there. And then when you fall off a cliff and they sense it, they hit another gear. And when we previewed the Western Conference playoffs, I looked at Minnesota as a team to go to the Western Conference Finals because of matchups, because of their size and their athletic ability. Now they have a team in Oklahoma City they're playing that's deeper, that's better, that's more aligned defensively, and has more offensive weapons. I'm not shocked that we are at 2-0. What's going to be more shocking to me is, can Minnesota find a way, Tom, to win 2 of the next 3 games? Because by the time we get back here next Saturday, I fully expect this series to be long over.
Yeah, one of the main points I was going to say, you said it right at the top, it's like despite the fact that both series are 2-0, they are dramatically different. Dramatically different 2-0 series. Like Oklahoma City has been the better team 100% of the time. Like you could say in this series, right? They are the better team. Yeah, they started off a little bit slow in the most recent game, but they took care of business. And like they had Minnesota at arm's reach, and then they kind of pulled away, as you said. The 2-0 series lead for the Pacers is dramatically different. Again, a couple baskets here or there, a missed shot, different substitutions, the coin flips that happen. The series could be tied. The Knicks could be up 2-0, whatever it might be. But OKC is the better team. I don't see this series going longer than 5 games. At best, Minnesota will get 1 game. And it really comes down to the fact that the depth on OKC is dramatically better compared to Minnesota. And when we look at the starting 5 for Minnesota coaches we were talking about prior, Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley are non-factors on offense. Just completely not even a threat on offense. And OKC don't even have to worry about them. So Minnesota has to go out there, and Randall and Ant have to do everything. And if we see a slightly down game from either of them, Minnesota has no chance.
I think one thing I was just thinking about is if you were to look at the Western Conference seeds and you just say, okay, Minnesota versus all these teams. Golden State, yes, because of the size. I thought Lakers versus size, but now I'm going through it like, would they have beaten? Would Minnesota have probably beaten Denver? I don't think so. Houston, that would have been close. 7 games.
I think we're rewriting history now. I think they would have thrown Houston into a blender. They've owned Denver for 2 years. That's how I. Here's
Houston I can get on.
Can I push back on something? So Minnesota was getting 8.5. They lost by 15. The Pacers were getting 5.5, and they won by 5.
Right.
So the Pacers were more dominant against the number in that spot than the Thunder were. Ultimately, for Minnesota, they're getting 2.5 points tonight. They're at home. If they win tonight's game at home, and I'm not saying that they will, but Minnesota at least can go, hey, we have our home games left. The Knicks just lost 2 in a row at the Garden.
I think
the Knicks thing is way worse than what's going on for Minnesota.
To me, it's not about the spread. It's about the competitiveness of the series. Like, when you look at the fact of, fourth quarter tight game, here comes the run. They're gone. Third quarter in game 2, they're gone. The Knicks series has been extremely tight, and it's been one small window, one amazing comeback, which you can get into. Knicks blow it, Indiana won it. It's some combination of both. But to me, if you look at not of the spread how it is, but in regards to the competitive nature of the series, I think the Knicks-Pacers series has been more competitive than Oklahoma City, Minnesota.
You are 100% correct about that, which is why I think the Knicks thing is more concerning. We're going to get into that series next, so I'll elaborate on that. We also, throughout our show today, WNBA coverage, great 2-game slate, some NBA rumors, some offseason, some eyeballs. Will I put Gobert in a Laker uniform? And then, of course, the quick look ahead, the NBA draft odds that have come out. The certainty around 1. Yeah. 2? Had a couple of questions. We'll try and answer them throughout our show right here on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell? If the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Pacers, Knicks through 2. The Pacers up 2-0. Competitive 100%. I'm not crazy. We've had overtime. We had a 5-point game in game number 2. That's kind of why this Knicks stuff feels really bad. So when we entered Knicks Celtics, the idea for the Knicks, come over here in the deep sea, and we're going to take you home. So now we're getting into the deep sea with the Pacers, and they can't win any of the close games? You're telling me that the clutch player of the year, which he deserved, and he has been through in the postseason, is all of a sudden not the clutchest player in the series? I mean, Halliburton stuff is incredible. The Knicks' only path through 2 games apparently is blow out the Pacers. Problem, the Pacers seem impossible to blow out, and they almost did in game 1 and then somehow still lost that game. We are watching right now a situation, JY, where the Knicks have, I don't care, the Knicks have a great collection of talent. They really do. But it was put together obviously quickly in the offseason, and you have to, it's only their first year together. But there are elements of this basketball team that feel like they may not work together. And the biggest that I am now feeling like does not work together is Brunson plus Cat. I know it's really difficult to come on here and be, anti-Brunson. Everybody loves him because he's an underdog. And he's got the most 30-point games in Knicks history. But Brunson has the ball so much that he is making a lot of these other guys around him useless unless they can contribute defensively at a high level. Well, that's not Karl Anthony Towns. They're already attacking Brunson on the defensive side every single possession. Here's an action, you're involved in it. Well, the other option is to attack Cat. The difference is Cat doesn't get to bounce around off Aaron Nesmith at the top of the key for 20 seconds of the 24-second shot clock. So, again, they beat Boston. It was incredible. They're in the conference finals. They're not protecting Madison Square Garden. They are down 2-0 in a series where Brunson has, 80 points through 2 games. It feels, JY, to me, that we could point to the closeness and say the Knicks just need to switch a couple of things and they're right back in it. This series feels as over right now as Thunder Timberwolves does to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if the Knicks continue to play like this and have their defensive breakdowns, absolutely. When you have the case of, and you're going to look at a lot of people like, yes, Brunson is someone that dominates the ball, and what we've seen, particularly in the last 2 games, is what I call the Julius Randle Atlanta Hawks series in a full effect, which is give the ball to one person, dribble. You got to figure it out, and the team's able to load up. So even if Jalen Brunson gets by the first defender, there's a secondary defender waiting for him. Whereas if you look at an Indiana Pacers team, they're getting into their second and sometimes their third action, and that's how they're getting New York in mismatches and mistakes. There's also about the part of roster construction. Kevin is right. They kind of got this trade with Cat literally right, at the beginning of the season, right around training camp. So to me, there are elements that are missing from this New York team that either Tibbs won't use or they're not good enough. Number one is a secondary ball handler, a.k.a. a backup point guard or someone that you could play in a 2-guard system. It is not campaign. It's obvious. And I'm a Knicks fan. The question is Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride that was terrible in the first-round series versus Detroit, had a huge series versus the Celtics, was a great 11 or so minutes, I do believe, in game number 1. First half was good. And then the second half really didn't get a lot of time, and the Knicks kind of went to their starters really deep into the third quarter where you saw Rick Carlisle, subbing. I think Obi Toppin was in 4 minutes into the third quarter. He started subbing right away, which gave his guys fresh legs.
Yeah.
So that gets to the Tibbs effect. And now it gets deeper than that. This whole Nova Nick thing, which was a great storyline, but at times Josh Hart kind of disappears. And he's not strong defensively. So that's where you have to look at in New York. Do you look to go to, you talk about Cat versus Mitchell Robinson, do you look to go to Deuce McBride a little bit, give him a little bit more minutes, because that's at least someone defensively where you can't say, I'm going to switch it, I'm going to take him. Like, they can't do that with Deuce. You openly saw, especially in the fourth quarter, ball screen, whoever had Halliburton, they got a switch screen with Brunson, and if you remember that dagger 3 that he hit to the 45 on the right side was on Brunson, because Brunson knew he couldn't step up to him, so he backed up, banged the 3. The other thing is you are 100 games into your season. The Knicks make colossal defensive mistakes. Oh. Colossal. No bigger one than the whole concept, and hopefully people that are listening on radio can understand this. When you drive the ball towards you, you're taught to fan out. The second biggest 3 of the game was a Miles Turner corner 3 with about 3 minutes left to go.
Yep.
They drove left. Mitchell Robinson, who's a great shot blocker, came in. The ball was coming to him. He's supposed to jab, go out, backside help is supposed to be there, and then that's where you get it. The problem is Mitchell Robinson stepped up. They threw it to Miles Turner. Turner hit the 3, and that to me was maybe the biggest shot, Tom, of that whole game.
Yeah, when it comes down to, especially in the fourth quarter and even late in the third quarter, the defensive switches for the Knicks just weren't sharp. And that's I think that's like the phrase I kept wanting to use. Like, they just weren't sharp. They weren't crisp. It looked like an early season game. It's like, all right, we can kind of let this one go. If he hits it, he hits. It's like they're not precise enough. And, back to the point of the roster construction for the Knicks, when you look at Bridges, OG, and Hart, it's like we kind of have 3 guys, obviously, offense to varying degrees. They kind of do similar things where there's not that dominant second ball handler that can be a consistent scorer, whether it's off ball from Brunson or when Brunson's off the court. They just don't have that consistent guard scoring.
Again, I know it's like so nuts to come on here and be like anti-Brunson. His usage percentage is around 40 in this series. SGA so far is at a 35. And that's the MVP of the league, man. We'll be right back here on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell? If the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Talking Knicks Pacers here, and I think we've all kind of laid out how we feel and why the Knicks are maybe in this situation. There comes a question, can you switch this? So I'll throw an idea out that I thought would have been the Knicks' approach if Mitchell Robinson was healthy to start the year, which is start Mitchell Robinson and have Josh Hart, who would have just won Sixth Man of the Year. Now, again, it is remarkable that all of a sudden Josh Hart, when you think about the season he's had, the moments he's had, the toughness, everything, he kind of feels like he is supposed to be the embodiment of Tom Thibodeau's New York Knicks. But ultimately, this team needs to get a little bit help out there on the defensive side of the ball. Getting Mitchell Robinson out there consistently will help them offensively in terms of the rebounding perspective. It'll cover for Cat and Brunson with the rim protecting. It feels, JY, like a switch to make, and I would imagine Josh Hart will be cool with it because I think that Josh Hart actually does read like somebody who just wants to win. I also think Josh Hart, like coming off of the bench, may give you, effort level 6 billion, like levels that he, because he'll just be so ready to go and wanting to prove himself. I don't think that's too drastic of a change. What do you believe?
No, I think it's the right approach because going into the season, everybody thought it was going to be Brunson at the 1, Bridges at the 2, OG at the 3, Cat at the 4, and Mitchell Robinson at the 5 because of the fact that Cat showed that he could play alongside a center because he did so with Rudy Gobert. And then what you have is you have Mitchell Robinson's rim protection. You have a double-barrel big. Cat still goes to the perimeter, so you can put Mitchell Robinson in a dunk spot, and you create more driving lanes, and then you have Mitchell Robinson to go and get offensive rebounds, which is kind of weird because sometimes, Kevin, the best lineup the Knicks have had during the series and the playoffs has been their double-barrel big lineup with Cat and obviously Mitchell Robinson. So, yeah, I think what that does is I think it also gives the Knicks, honestly, Kevin, a little bit more balance. We talk about having a secondary ball handler. Well, Josh Hart becomes that secondary ball handler because you don't trust Deuce. Josh Hart's minutes go down. Now Deuce doesn't have to have the weight of his shoulders of the second team. Campaign gets less minutes. Maybe you give Precious Achiuwa a couple of minutes here and there. I mean, he ain't that much worse than Obi Toppin. He can get in there and mix it up and get a rebound and put a putback in. So this is the problem sometimes with Tibbs. Tibbs is Tibbs. And I want to push back on something right now. All these Knicks fans that are going on social media saying, we got to fire Tibbs, we got to fire. It ain't happening. So put that to bed. He got the team to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. They're not firing him. Now, could they get rid of him next year if they get off to a poor start with the same roster, some tweaking? that's a story for another day. But Tom, the big story with the Knicks is, will Tibbs try anything different like Kevin suggested, or Deuce McBride? What are your thoughts? Where can the Knicks do something different to try and change the series a little bit?
So we were talking pre-show about the JJ Redick first series with the Lakers. How Rick Carlisle's like, hey, hey, if you got a player, are you healthy? Can you get out there? Let's try something different. Where I do like the idea of a Hart and Miles McBride coming off the bench just to give a different look. The issue is like the Knicks are running out of time. Like, I view Game 3 as like a must-win for the Knicks. Because if they can win Game 3, maybe they lose Game 4, they win Game 5 back at home, we got a 3-2 series lead, the pressure would be on the Pacers going into Game 6 to win on home court, right? And then anything happens in Game 7.
Yeah.
The Knicks are running out of time to experiment with the Tibbs doing something different. So I want to see anything different. I don't think Precious Achiuwa is the answer long-term, but give me 8 minutes. Right, give me 8, maybe 10 minutes. We just got to mix it up. We got to put a different body out there, give a little bit of rest. But I think Robinson should be in the starting lineup. Go him and Cat. You can go against Turner and Siakam just to try something different. Hart comes off the bench, and I agree with the take that the effort that he would bring is something that he wants to prove, and it would just be a completely new look for the Knicks. And what's the worst that happens? Like, all right, you're losing close games. You lose another close game because you happen to try something different. There's no wrong answer at this point. You just got to figure out what works.
Yeah. Here's, I guess, if this series is Pacers in 5 or 4, they absolutely can fire Tom Thibodeau. Because you losing consecutive seasons to the Indiana Pacers while having home court advantage, when you consider the offseason that they had, I think is a change that is on the board. The other change that is 100% going to loom, and maybe, long-term, a sacrifice worth making, they will be immediately, maybe at halftime, calling the Milwaukee Bucks about Giannis. Western Conference Finals next.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is he would, that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Forgive me in the back. We're live with you right here on SportsGrid. I actually want to go back quickly just to the Knicks-Pacers bit of it all, because rightfully the Knicks are the story, the favorites, they're the Knicks. But we didn't really talk
about the Pacers.
Indiana and just like, how much are you buying in? Because here's the thing. If you were to say, I'm not buying in that much, they have 3 of the most improbable victories you'll ever see in a single postseason, I actually think that that's understandable, right? Now, there's something to the idea that this team somehow keeps doing it, and it's crazy that it's the case. I think so many teams who, you think you win game 1 with the Halliburton buzzer beater, to find out you have overtime, to see the other team start on a quick 4-0 run and still win in overtime, was it incredibly impressive. I'll start with you, Tom, though. Where are you right now on a Pacers team that is currently 10-2 in these playoffs?
I'm to the point where, maybe started off in the early series, obviously, versus Milwaukee, be like, okay, that happens. It's basketball.
Yeah.
It's the playoffs. They're going to get lucky here or there. They're going to make some shots. Other teams are going to make mistakes. And it's like, no, they did it again. It's like, yeah, they did it. They won again.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe they are this good. Maybe the market undervalued them time and time again. No, and we talked about it at the start of the Cavs series. So I was like, listen, I think that the Cavs were the better team, just in theory.
Yeah.
But when you see a number being hung at like plus 430, the Pacers were on the series price, somewhere around there. I'm like, listen, that's a great spot to have because they are a good team. And when they keep proving it and they're doing it in different ways, and then they kind of have that je ne sais quoi, they have that magic where they just put it together. It's like, man, we have to buy into them because, as we were talking about during the break, they have been utterly dominant. They've been utterly dominant. They've only lost 2 games, and then they're winning close games. And you could say, okay, the coin's going to flip on the other side. It's like, show me when that happens because they've been right a lot.
Even if you take away these 3, well, not the last one, but the 2 crazy wins that they've had, they're still winning those 2 series. Right, like maybe it's 4-2 instead of 4-1, right? So
Fair.
I don't want to just say, well, the reason why the Pacers are winning is because they had these crazy wins and they let the momentum. No, you still got to win other games. And when you look at Indiana, there was, number one, I've been saying this all week. We got to put a lot of respect on the name Rick Carlisle.
Yeah.
This is someone that we do not. You talk about Ty Lue, Joe Mazzulla, Ime Udoka, Tom Thibodeau. You keep going. Steve Kerr, Spoelstra. You never talk about a top 5 coach in the NBA, and never in the last 25 years has someone mentioned Rick Carlisle. And look what this guy has done. And what's great about Carlisle is he did something a lot of other people haven't done. He's adapted. He's adapted his style to the personnel that he has. You're listening, Tom Thibodeau? I'm going to say it again. He's adapting to the players that he has and runs a system that works for them.
Yeah.
So what works for them? They can run 10 guys at you, and he will believe in his bench. Folks, Obi Toppin, who couldn't get, that was sometimes in Tom Thibodeau's doghouse, was in the game in the third quarter, 3.5, 4 minutes into the third quarter. And I'm like, what? And then I'm saying to myself, but this is Rick Carlisle, and his players believe in him. TJ McConnell, who's bounced around different teams. TJ McConnell comes in the game, and Nick fan, I'm like, here we go. Guy's about to eat brunch for breakfast. Jack, So Aaron Naismith, guy turns into Dale Ellis all of a sudden. He's playing on the Rick Carlisle, right? And it's just the way that they play and the minutes. Thomas Bryant, I forgot this dude was in the damn league. And this guy's coming in there and giving them minutes. Sometimes you have a coach that gets a roster and believes in that roster, and they become about the sum of the parts. And Siakam made I was listening to him with Allie LaForce last night, Kev, when he did his interview after 39. And you could generally see a guy that didn't care that it was him. It mattered that it was them. And that's a big thing that I love about this team. Pacers. They're about the sum of their parts.
Aaron Nesmith had a game that, again, quite frankly, no player should ever have, okay? So you go, all right, come on, Nesmith will never do that again. Correct. But the Pacers are built to every game have a guy give you a game where you go, that won't happen again. But it only needs to happen 4 times in a series. Again, like Andrew Nembhard is still going to score 25 at some point, 30 if not, in a game in this series. That's just the way this team works. The path to beating Indiana, I think, is you have to be good enough defensively to get some type of consistent stops, but you have to make them pay for still not being a great defensive team. I do not believe that they've turned into this great defensive team. It's why I think Cleveland, if they were healthy, would have been able to take advantage, because the Cavs offense, which, by the way, still grades out as the best offense we've seen in this postseason, because, I mean, my Eric Spoelstra, Miami Heat, they were scoring a gazillion on that team. And I think that becomes a really fascinating thing when you try and match up with Indiana, and it's likely the question Oklahoma City is going to have to try and answer, because OKC finds themselves up right now 2-0 in the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Thunder have had this kind of up and down postseason in that the first 4 games against Memphis felt completely fake. And then all of a sudden they're in this series against Denver where they're up against it. I mean, they trailed in that series. That's not a thing that you would expect to be true of a group booked the way OKC is, viewed the way OKC is. And I don't just mean 1-0. They were down 2-1 as well in the series against the Denver Nuggets. They had to win a Game 7 on their home floor against the former best player in the world. We'll get into that at some point. I just view OKC's postseason as one where they probably broke through due to those close wins that they had in games 4 and 5 against Denver. And now it's really, really hard to find the weak points, JY, of this basketball team.
You know, sometimes when you're a young team, Kevin, it's not about the wins, it's the losses and how you respond to them. If you think about losing game 1, blowing that game, they come out and they just absolutely boat race them.
Yeah.
Right? Game number 3, they lose a tight game, lose a really close game. And that's when you get concerned about them. And you're right. You're like, how are you going to respond when your backs are against the wall? What do? They win game 4, game 5 close. Then they lose game 6. And then I think they have this belief. And I keep going to this. I've always believed that your defense has to be your absolute, right? It can never waver. It can never waver. Because when you're rolling offensively, you can beat a team like 149 to 106. But when you're not scoring, your defense can hold you down until your offense can take over. And that's what's so dangerous, Tom, about this team in Oklahoma City is this is a young team that's figured out we're going to lean on our defense and then we're going to figure out who is the guy or guys, and it's more than just SGA, folks, that is going to go off, and then we're going to lean on that to get us going. But our defense has got to stay firm until that happens.
Yeah, after what they did last year, and I think the point that you're trying to make is essentially like they're battle tested now.
Yeah.
Right? Like they went through, they took their licks last year against Dallas. They came through the Memphis series, like you said, which was just a steamroll by them. But they learned in that Denver series. And we were here many Sundays talking about the Denver series like, hey, they're either blowing out teams or they're losing close games. Well, then they started to win close games.
Yeah.
And that is the turning point for them. And again, whether it's Chet doing just enough, Hartenstein, obviously we're going to get enough from both Jalen Williams, both of them playing their roles. But they have the pieces, and that's what I like. That they can win in different ways. They can score. That now they can win close games. And when it's all said and done, they're going to roll over Minnesota in 4, maybe 5 games at most.
The other, again, big benefit is OKC is the best player in the world. At least, I mean, through every single bit of evidence that seems to be stacking up. We'll talk more about it with you right here on a Saturday morning on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell? If the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Easy. Down, boy. Live right here on SportsGrid. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, Kevin Walsh. It is betting above the rim pro basketball today. OKC against Minnesota. Look, I just want to try and see if I can talk to my guys here and maybe hearing out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's case for best player in the world. Because
Spicy.
the series against the Nuggets happened. It had the two options. The Thunder won the series. Nobody had the conversation. Nobody thought it was interesting. Nobody thought there was apparently a Shai case. I found that to be a little bit confusing. I saw some say that Jokic was the best player in the series emphatically. What series were they watching? Did they swoop in for games 1 and 5 and that was it? Did they skip the 3-game stretch where he was under 40% from the field in all 3 games? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander won league MVP. This desk here, I imagine, is in the moment, all expecting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to win Finals MVP. I would think so.
Absolutely.
Does anyone know the last player to win MVP and Finals MVP in the same season?
I'm going to guess LeBron James.
Whoa, guys, these guys are trivia. Whoa, really good. Yeah, you better believe it. 2 years in a row in Miami. Shout out to the king. Now, that would
I
mean
think we were going there at some point.
Whoa, what are you talking about, guys? Trivia is just the answer.
Technically, this is just strictly facts.
Correct. What do you mean? Not
There's no bias.
What's biased about the fact that
I just said there's no bias. I just said it's strictly facts.
Your microphone's arguing with you.
Yeah, I know. They're trying to cut me out back there. What's not going to happen? Now here's the deal. I'm gonna wiggle until this thing picks me up. Here's the deal. All right. So I try and talk to my teammates here. Hold on. That means that SGA is now favored to do something that Jokic didn't do, Giannis didn't do, Steph, Durant, Harden, Westbrook.
Steph did it. He did it once.
No, he didn't. Finals
MVP and MVP in the same year?
Nope. That's why the trivia was the first since LeBron. Are you going to actually fact check me right now?
I'm not the first since LeBron. It is the first since LeBron, but didn't Steph do it in...
LeBron did it when he was with Miami. This is just a treat because now I get to mention that Steph absolutely didn't do it.
Okay.
Steph won MVP. Iguodala won Finals MVP. Steph won unanimous MVP. You know what happened that year? The 3-1 comeback.
Yeah.
All right, so we handled. Okay, Tom.
Okay, I'm not saying it.
All facts. I mean, again, people are going to get mad at me like he didn't bring up the 2016 NBA Finals. Oh, sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did. Do you know how many guys in between?
0?
No, 2.
Kobe?
Shaq and Tim Duncan. Ooh. The point is, SGA now gets to make this case. Here, how about some Michael trivia? Since Michael Jordan, the list of guys to average 30-plus points per game in 3 straight seasons. SGA, Giannis, and Harden. no LeBron, no Kobe, no Shaq, no Iverson, no Durant, no Steph. Shea has been doing this for years. Shea now is very close to bringing in the accolades. And this is also his age 26 season. SGA is going to be 27 next year. You love playing these games with me, Tom, right? So let's just say he gets to 2 finals MVPs plus regular season MVPs at the end of this year. Okay?
This year?
But at the end of the season, he's at 2 total, combined.
Okay.
Combined. What's the over-under then on combined MVPs and finals MVPs for SGA, assuming he gets to 2?
I think the line would have to be 3.5.
That looks like to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're about to go on a run. I would put it at least 5.
I was thinking it would maybe be 4.5. I think you could argue, again, based on his age, based on the everything,
and that the fact that team,
the whole
just
team is young.
Yeah. By the way, really quick, I always have to do this every once in a while. Shout out to the GM that traded SGA to the Thunder. Glenn Doc Rivers.
No, come on. No, what's going on here?
Doc's got to catch a stray in this somehow.
You're not wrong. I guess the reason why I think this is all important, though, truly, is for a lot of years in league's history, you kind of would point to who you maybe thought was the best player in the world, or at least was in that conversation, and that is how you would make a championship pick, whether that was LeBron, Durant, Steph, right? People would throw Kawhi in there occasionally, then it was Giannis, then it was Jokic. But you're now looking at SGA, and I think the reason it is important to have the conversation around him sitting at the top spot is SGA then has the potential to sit at that top spot for
multiple years.
And that's kind of where we are right now with SGA and the Thunder, Tom.
The more and more we talk this through,
yeah,
it has to be the case because the West is obviously LeBron's only going to play another year or 2.
Maybe he goes back east.
Right. Durant's probably not going to be with the Suns for that much longer. Steph's done.
Yeah.
No, I mean done. But obviously, again, only going to play a couple more years. But the question becomes is who's there to challenge him for either? Because there may be a year where he doesn't win MVP, but then he'll win Finals MVP. Right? There's we could very, very realistically see a repeat of this year, next year, where it's like, okay, Jokic just wins MVP. He does some crazy stuff, this, that, the other thing. Maybe, they win this year. SGA has a little bit slower year next year. He doesn't have to prove so much. And then he turns up in the playoffs, and Finals MVP is there for him. So we could see that bounce back and forth. It's like, I don't know. We're eventually going to have a Wemby MVP conversation.
You would imagine,
right?
so
that may take away from the regular season MVPs, but the finals would be there, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great job, and the credit to Sam Presti what he's done. And I think the reason why we think the window is just opening is at any point he can push a bunch of chips to the center of the table and come after him. The interesting thing is, I think, is who could be the challenger out west. You have to look at a team that's got young players, a young coach, and maybe can hit on their draft pick. And I know we'll talk about the draft at some point.
The Spurs.
It's the Spurs.
Yeah.
The Spurs are the team, if you look out west, for age, in regards to roster construction, less drama, it's them. You could say Memphis, but they can't get out of their own damn way.
And it's not the Spurs next year. It's the ball's starting to roll right now.
Again, it sets up for a really, really interesting spot here around this league. Now, the funny thing is, if this all comes crashing down, if OKC does not win the title, and maybe they don't get out of this series, is that possible? Could we see it? We'll talk about whether Minnesota has any life next, right here on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell? If the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Back on Sports Grid. What does Minnesota do?
Pray.
Okay. All right, but now that we've left the chapel.
Okay, yes.
Okay. What do they do? They we talked about this briefly at the Open. What they do is obviously Randall's coming off of a terrible game. And Randall's been fantastic the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. Coming off a terrible game, they need to get consistent production, and I mean the bare bones minimum consistent production out of Naz Reid, DiVincenzo, NAW, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert all at the same game. Like, again, we talked about like Conley and Gobert are non-threats on all.
They're negatives. They're negative. Wait.
So in order to get you to be like, hey, Mike Conley, you're not going out there and scoring 20 points. But if you give us 7, and Gobert, you give us 8, and NAW off the bench, you give us, you're not going to have 17, but you give us 9, and DiVincenzo, give us 8. Then we have a shot. It has to be the rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. A little bit from everyone.
See, and I see your point, but to me, I have to go with their big three have to all play well at the same time.
It's also true.
Who's the three?
Well, I'm going to say McDaniels has got to be the third.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was not good in game 1. He was better in game 2. Randall was terrible in game 2. Right? And has put up numbers, but they also haven't been really efficient shooting numbers.
Nor consistent.
Right, or consistent. So what I'm saying is you probably need, I'm going to throw out there, between the 3 of them, I'm going to say about 70 points you need by the 3 of them, and then hope that you get 40 from everybody else. And the problem is, even if you get that and get to 110, that still may not be enough to beat OKC.
Because you need OKC to also kind of struggle-ish in order for all these pieces to fall together at the same time.
So, there's here. I think Jaden McDaniels has to stop guarding SGA. I think. Listen, Chris Finch is. I want to just be very obvious because I'm about to correct everything I think he's doing. Chris Finch is an NBA head coach, is so far a great start to his career, and I'm sitting here at the desk. With that said, cut it out with the Jaden McDaniels guards everyone's best player, and that's all he's there for thing. Enough, okay? Let Jaden McDaniels try and shut off J-Dub's water. We saw that happen last series. That Jalen Williams, as much as I love the player, I'm sure you guys as well, Jaden McDaniels could have some success there. He can't guard SGA. So let's do that. How do we guard SGA? You can't guard him. Isn't that obvious? Start Conley on him or Dante. I don't care. And then send help, specifically and with the athleticism and size off of Dort. If Dort makes 5 threes, who I took for 2+, great.
So be it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Doubt it. Let's find out.
So it's the mindset of, as a coach, I get exactly where you're going. When I used to go against dominant players, right, that everyone's complimentary, could shoot the ball and do some things. You have one or two choices. It's option A, let everybody else cook, lock down the leading scorer, or reverse. The problem is, and I think with not only the fact that I think McDaniels could do a good job on J-Dub, Kevin, I think it's the fact that it can also give him more opportunities to unlock himself offensively. Because I think as much as you need him to play defense, Tom, you need him to score. And if he's running around with SGA all over the place, one, he may get cooked. Two, he may not have enough left to go ahead and score is what they need him to do as well.
It may be a combination of, like, the mental ease of, like, I don't need to stop SGA. Where so physically he's not running around, he's not picking up fouls, and then the mental side is like, hey, I'm not worried about that. I just got to play good defense against someone else, and I have to do enough scoring to help out the team. It may be a combination of both of those things, and it's the same situation. You know, we're kind of talking about the Knicks. It's like the Timberwolves have to try something different, and if it's switching defensive assignments because it's not working for them, that's the case. Like the team's down 0-2. Be free with the experimenting because you're not at a spot where, like, hey, we're going to throw away a series lead if we mess things up. It's like you're already down. Get out there and try.
I'm going to also say one of the reasons that the Timberwolves were able to beat the Lakers, and I didn't think this would be the case, was Chris Finch giving up on Gobert the way he did. Because I thought the Lakers would have found some success with Gobert on the court, and I didn't think that would happen as quickly as it did. But Chris Finch, this happens sometimes with coaches, think, okay, well, that's just then how to be. What they've done to Rudy Gobert, I know it's rare to hear Rudy Gobert defense, is nightmarish. His value has never been lower. Coach is right, by the way. The big three now doesn't involve, if I'm not mistaken, their highest paid player. It's McDaniels, it's Randall, and it's Ant. Gobert... First of all, can anyone on this team throw a lob? Like, is there any player on the Timberwolves capable of throwing a lob to Rudy Gobert? Also, I'm definitely putting Gobert in a Laker uniform when we get to the rumors. We're going to talk WNBA next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare her down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.